it builds automatically because of the kind of consistency, the discipline, the words, the mindset he carries. I also remember one of the things in the beginning of the business, when we were coming back from association, I did not have a car. Okay. At that time, I had a car, but I did not have a car that day. Okay. So I asked him, are you going back to Gurgaon? He said, yes. So I said, can you please drop me? And I knew he had a BMW. Okay. So I actually wanted to sit in that. All right. Because it was my dream to have one. How many of you have a dream to have a German car someday? Someday. Yes. Someday. Correct. So I sat in the car. Okay. And I was driving Maruti, I remember. And I sat in the car and we were coming from Delhi to Gurgaon. It takes 45 minutes to 1 hour. Okay. From where we were. All right. And all that time, I was just watching the car. Okay. I was just seeing the car. He was talking to me, but to dream big also, to help me achieve anything, to make it sure that, I can make it, it's realistic to me. I saw that, which gave me the confidence that I can achieve. So guys, he's that person who will give you the confidence. He's that person who will hold your finger, hold your hand and take you to the next level. So guys, when he comes in here today, please give your best. Okay. Very important. Give your heart. He's a heart person. Very important that you listen to him from the heart, not from the mind. Please keep your brains today aside. Put your heart out. Let your heart connect to his heart. And I'm sure 100% this Sunday will change your life. Today, let not just be another Sunday. Let this Sunday be the Sunday that will change your life forever. But for that, you need to be here 100%. You need to be here mentally, okay, and physically. Do not move. And I'll call him here, okay? Give him the best energy. He's the one who changed my life. You guess what? My father's birthday and his birthday is the same. So I have two fathers, okay? So when I call him father figure, it's actually literally a father figure, okay? So both have 13th October. So my father's birthday is 13th October. He's also my father in the business and in life, 13th October. All right. So guys, I want you guys to welcome him with all your heart. Okay. And he's the one who can help you or change your life. So guys, I'll not welcome him like this. Please, I know you can't, you can shout in your screens, but people who cannot shout, you can do this. But I will welcome him, the person who changed my life forever, my upline, my mentor, my brother, my everybody in the business, none other than one and only, guys, please stand up, and one and only, Shantanu Paul. Fantastic. Shantanu.
Thank you so much, Viral. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Very, very kind words from Viral. When somebody edifies you so much, we don't realize it, but it puts a lot of pressure on the speaker. Right? And then you have to kind of live up to everything that's being said, right, in the business. Actually, it's a very good way to keep you on your toes, right? To ensure that you stick to the right path. Hey, thanks so much, Viral, for your beautiful and kind words. So guys, how's everyone today? All good? Bright and early on a Sunday morning, right? I'm sure there are some of you here who are attending this for the first time wondering what's going on. But believe me, when I went for my first system, I was completely confused because right now we're still sitting on Zoom, right? My first system, early morning on a Sunday, and I'm not a morning person. And I reached the venue and people are dancing at like 9:30 a.m. And I couldn't figure out what's wrong. I was wondering what's wrong with these people. And honestly, I was in a bit of a judgment mode because I couldn't understand why you would do that. Because coming from, the corporate world, that's not how you're supposed to behave, right? You're supposed to be well-mannered and all that, correct? And here I saw people of different age groups, different walks of life. Everybody's dancing, loud music, going crazy. I'm like, ho kya raha hai? What have I landed myself into? So it was very confusing. But yeah, there is, everything we do in the business is because of a reason, and there is a reason for that as well, which maybe we can discuss in a different forum. So great, guys. I was tasked with taking the system today, and I spoke to my upline Vijay, and I was like, what do you want me to talk about? Is there a topic? Is there a module that I need to cover? And he said, no, just go and share your journey. Because we realized that there are a lot of you here that haven't personally interacted or spent a lot of time with me. correct? And in the business, we always hear names of our uplines and so on, but we don't necessarily know who's the person behind that image, right? So I'm gonna talk to you all today and tell you a bit about my journey, not just in the business but in life. Maybe that'll give you some insight into really who I am. So I'm from Delhi, right? I've spent most of my life over here. Delhi, Gurgaon, I mean, it's interchangeable. Uh, born into a service class family. My father was an Air Force officer. He was a pilot who retired fairly early, joined the corporate world. My mother is a doctor and had very good upbringing. There was never any shortage of anything. There was never, by God's grace, we never really had a financial struggle or financial challenges. In fact, it was quite the opposite. I was brought up in great comfort. Growing up as a child, we used to holiday abroad. I had a car before I turned 16. I mean, that car was not given to me. It just fell in my lap because my brother decided to go to the US to study after schooling. So I became the sole focus for my parents. Everything that was coming started to come my way. I remember my dad bought a new car and he didn't sell the old one. So it came to me, which is okay. At that age, you'll take anything that you get. So life was good, but I also, growing up, some of my very close friends were people that had a lot more than me, right? If I had a good life, they had an even better life, right? So in terms of, in terms of a lifestyle and the things that they had and the things, the conversations that they would have and so on, it was a lot more than what I did. So I was exposed to a certain lifestyle very early in my childhood. In fact, some of my dad's friends were a different level altogether. I mean, massive farmhouses, Rolls Royces, Porsches, and on occasion you would get to take a ride in those cars, which was like a dream car, right? I mean, sometimes we are lucky to even spot one, and we used to ride around in them. On a couple of occasions, even flew in private jets. So life was very nice, when I was growing up. But why I'm telling you this is because what that also did to me was, I understood that, if you want this kind of a life, it'll never happen from a job. Because none of these people that I'm talking about had jobs. They all had businesses of their own. And businesses of different sizes. And, some were S quadrant people, some were B quadrant people and so on. But I had understood that naukri se nahi ho sakta. And I was very clear that at some point even I want this life. Because, aadat dal jati hai na. Sorry, I need to speak in English because of translation. You get used to seeing that. And then when you don't have it, it makes you uncomfortable. Right? In a sense, you're kind of spoiled. So I knew very early in my life that one day I'm going to do a business. When will that happen? What business? I had no idea. I wasn't even thinking about it. But I knew that one day it will happen. And as a student, I was very average, very, very average. Not because, I shouldn't be saying this because I was an average guy, but because I had zero interest in studies. I was completely disinterested in studies. I used to spend more time outside school than I spent in school. My attendance was usually below 50%, right? Because I was more interested in doing all the other things that I could do. So time pass with friends, I was very, very interested, always have been very interested in music. I was very good in sports. So every single sport that I played, I was pretty good at it. And most of my education came not from attending classes in school, but from tuitions. Right? So mandatory tuitions were there. And so whatever I used to study, whatever I learned was from that. But I also used to read a lot. So I was practically addicted to reading. Whether it was books or newspapers. I mean, in my family, we come from a family of news junkies. So we used to get 3 newspapers, and my grandfather, my father would read them, and then it would be passed down to me, and I would read it end to end. We used to get magazines. So I remember as a kid, we used to get Reader's Digest. We used to get India Today. We used to get Time magazine, and we used to get Newsweek. Reader's Digest I found very boring. But Time, Newsweek, and India Today, I used to read cover to cover religiously. So I was very well aware of what was happening not just in the country, but outside the country. And at a very early age, I'm talking when I was still in my early teens. So I could hold a conversation about many topics, right? Even with adults, because I would read all the time. So whether it was world affairs, current affairs, general knowledge, music, movies, business, that is where, that somehow used to interest me a lot. Kitabe to I would not even touch. They would just be gathering dust. Every year you get promoted, you go to the next grade. So we would get a set of books from school. I would nicely put covers on all the notebooks, the brown paper that we used to get, and used to cover it, write my name and all. And they would pretty much be sitting idle like that for the rest of the year. And pretty much directionless for most of my life. Most of my life was like that. I was drifting with the wind. If the wind blew right, I would go right. If it blew left, I would go left. But somehow I always lived with this knowledge that my life will be sorted. There was some crazy belief that I had that I knew I will have a good life, right? I mean, it's only when I signed up in the business, attended my first welcome, that I realized it's called living in highlight zone, right? But at that time, I didn't know it. But it was a strange belief, almost to the point of being delusional. Like if I saw myself, right, the person I was then, who was talking about living a certain life, I would think I'm mad. Because none of my actions were in line with what I wanted in life, right? Sab sahi ho jayega, sir. But aap kar kya rahe ho? What are you doing to do that? Nothing, right? So I was practically borderline delusional, you could say. So finished my schooling, what to do next? I thought, let's go to Manipal, let's do hotel management. Why do hotel management? My dad said, look, it's a professional degree. My dad has always, in fact, both my parents have always been like that. Do what you want to do in life. Do what makes you happy. So he said, well, it's a professional degree, not bad. You can explore Delhi University also. You can do BCom, etc. I said, no, I'll go to Manipal. One of the reasons was because one of my closest friends, who was my father's Air Force course-mate's son, had just gone to Manipal a year prior to that. He was a year older than me. And we used to talk, and he said, dude, awesome life. I mean, this is rocking. You won't believe it. Come. I said, chalo, let's go. And went to take my entrance exam. I remember it was in modern school, Barakhamba Road. And finished the written. And I'm standing, waiting, looking at the notice board to see. The next was the group, I was saying goal discussion, the group discussion, right? Where, you're given a topic and you have to debate. And this guy walks up to me with, long hair falling practically over his eyes and covering half his face. And this guy walks up to me and starts talking to me. And generally chit chat, where are you from, this, that, etc., etc. And after 10, 15 minutes, we realized that we are in the same group discussion. And he said, okay, let's do one thing. Whatever topic is given, you don't contradict me, I won't contradict you. I said, okay, fine. And as luck would have it, both of us, we were the only two people who cleared that group discussion. And about a month or 2 months later, landed in Manipal. And I'm walking in, into my room, opening that lock and all. And the next room, I see this guy coming out and I recognize him. I'm like, hey, you got in? And he's like, yeah, good to see you, etc., etc. Manish Kumar, right? That is how I met him. So, and fate, master plan. And from that day onwards till now, he's been one of my closest friends. So that's what happened. And like Manish shared in his last system, right? He was directionless. He came to Manipal and he met me, who was equally directionless. So I can validate that he was completely true in whatever he said. Right. And college was a blast. We had a lot of fun. We did things that I can't talk about because it would shock most of you if you heard it. Right. Got in all kinds of trouble. And I mean, like, serious trouble. So 3 years went by very quickly. And now it was time to become part of the workforce, right? Because you're graduating. What do you do? And because it's a professional degree, you can straight away get a good job and, and all that. Campus interviews started again. No interest at all. So I don't know which world I used to live in. There was some la la land that I was living in, right? And, there's one instance where we had to go from Manipal to Bangalore. So Manipal to Bangalore is an 8-hour journey by road. So we got this overnight bus because our entire batch went there because one of the leading and most prestigious hotel groups in India were conducting interviews, and our entire batch went for those interviews. So Bangalore, in the early to mid 90s was known as the pub city. Correct. Today it's called Silicon Valley. Back then it was the pub city. So what do you do? What do Manish Kumar and Shantanu Gaul do when they go to a pub city? I don't need to tell you, right? So the night before the interview, that night finished when the sun began to rise. So we decided, let's go back, let's catch some sleep. So we slept off, right? And fully in our mind, knowing that, chalo, we have an interview to take and all, big thing, like, yeah, theek hai, dekhi jayegi, we'll see how it goes. And we sleep, and then we wake up thinking that, chalo, let's get up, get ready. And a lot of us were staying together in a hotel. And suddenly we see these guys walking back, taking off their suits, removing their ties. And I'm like, guys, what's going on? And looked at the time, it was evening. So interview, etc., gone. So that is the kind of seriousness that we had towards life. Now, no point crying over spilt milk. Ab Bangalore aayi gaye. So what do? Repeat what you did last night, because now the interview is over, right? Opportunity gone. So that is the kind of life that we were living. Anyway, finished college, got into the manufacturing sector. How did that happen? My dad was a majority partner in a company that was in manufacturing. Profitable business, so doing well. He wasn't active, he was a sleeping partner, but he was the majority shareholder. So remember I told you wanted to do business. I said, chalo, I'll do this. Why do I need to work for somebody else? So got involved with that, spent about a year and a half, totally hated it. I didn't like it one bit because I felt like a bonded labor. First 3-4 months, they didn't pay me anything at all. They were only covering my fuel cost, right? And our unit was in this place called Saibabad, which is, outskirts of, technically it's part of Uttar Pradesh, right? And it was about 25-30 kilometer drive. And I'm like, well, what am I doing with my life? I'm not even making any money. And they used to make me do all the lowly things, right? Because, that was my father's way of teaching me the business, right? But I felt I was meant to do bigger things. I was like, what am I doing? So I decided to quit. And telecom was booming. Mobile telephony had come to India. And I got an opportunity to join this company called SR Cell Phone, which is Vodafone now, right? And worked there for about a year and a half. Somehow, I don't know, by default, IT also started to boom, and I got interested in, because like I said, I used to read a lot. So I was very clued in with what was happening in the business world. So, somehow managed to make some inroads over there. But because of the lack of education in that sector, I realized that I will not be able to grow beyond a certain point. So after almost, 4-5 years of working, I decided to do an MBA. And, studied a bit, got into an okay kind of an MBA college, nothing to write home about. It was maybe above average, right? Got in, did my MBA in IT systems, and then got back into the workforce, started working. And at that time, the focus was only to make more money. I didn't have this desire to excel in any particular field or any of that. Like I said, life was just going by. It was just about where can I make more money. So flipped a few jobs, moving around, landed up with IBM, worked there for a bit. And then one day I happened to get this opportunity to join a startup in Delhi. And because of certain personal reasons, we were required to move back to Delhi. My wife and I got married by then, and moved to Delhi, joined this company. And that is where my corporate life turned around. The first year or so, we were handling, certain verticals. There was a business line that we were part of. And somewhere this idea came along where we decided to start a new line of business in management consulting. And I was chosen to be the one to basically build that. So there was a company, and we said new line of business, formed a new legal entity, which had only one employee at that time. That was me, right? So started working, and we were basically partnering with what was globally the number one company in that space, what was known as spend management. And, started working, started building the company, and all of a sudden we started to grow very, very rapidly. And, had to obviously keep expanding, hiring new employees. Suddenly the sales team started to get built. We didn't really have a delivery setup much because of the nature of the business at that time, and started spending on marketing, then had to, hire HR. So it was literally building an organization from scratch, right? And I began to enjoy that a lot. And I felt that for the first time in my life, in my working life, I really found something that I enjoyed. And maybe that's the reason that I was able to work hard and I was interested in it. I was excited. I was kicked about it. And I was actually completely focused on building that. Also because I had started to make very good money, right? My salary was growing exponentially for a certain number of years over there because of the nature of how my compensation was structured. And got very serious in life. And eventually, over a period of time, we saw massive growth, right? It was a huge success. And I was riding a high. Okay. I was really on a high that time. Good money, a lot of recognition. I mean, we were featured in a magazine, which caters to small and medium enterprises. They did a cover story on us. They came to our office, they shot our pictures, they did a good 5-6 page story. There was a very leading business channel on TV that wanted to feature us on one of their shows, which basically, presents these companies that are, mushrooming and doing really well. But eventually that never happened. But, life was great. People around me suddenly started to feel very proud of me, right? And for a large part of my life, I was really judged a lot. People thought that this guy is not going to be able to do anything in life, and I don't blame them because that's just how I was living my life. So life was good, and I feel that they say master plan, and looking back at my life, I can see how the master plan has always been at work for me, because the exposure that I got in that startup was invaluable, literally invaluable. And there was another aspect that I started to see, which slowly, started to bother me a lot, because we were doing well, company was growing, and my boss was the owner of the company, right? And one fine day I see he buys a BMW. Like, okay, very good. He's talking to me about buying a BMW. In my mind, I'm thinking, what BMW? I mean, come on, get real. Because I knew he had the money, but we didn't have the mindset, right? We didn't have the mindset that, in your early 30s, who buys a BMW? That was the school of thought that we came from. And one day he buys a BMW. I'm like, very nice, yeah? Good car. And, every now and then he would, if we were ever going for a meeting or somewhere, he would say, you want to drive it? I'm like, sure, why not? It was a beautiful 5 Series. And 7-8 months later, I hear that he bought $1 million house in Gurgaon, an apartment, 6,000 square foot apartment. I'm like, chalo, very good, yeah? Good for him. The guy is doing well, right? But somewhere inside of me, I was like thinking, ye ho kya raha hai? What is going on? Then a year later, I see that he gifts his wife a BMW. Now I'm thinking, what is going on? This guy, in a matter of about 2.5 years, bought $1 million home, bought 2 BMWs, and I'm still driving what I'm driving, and I'm still living in the same home. We used to travel for business meetings, and he would be in business class, I would be in economy class. And, I started to think that I'm the guy who's being leveraged. I'm the guy who's running from one city to another, going from one country to another. I'm the guy who's pulling in, and the billing that I was bringing in was more than what the other people in my organization were bringing combined. So I started to feel a little shortchanged, because I was like, if I'm the one who's doing all of this, how is it that I'm not getting any of this and he is? And that's where I began to seriously contemplate that, it's far better in life to do something of your own than to do something for somebody else. Because fine, he gives me a good income, I make good money, but am I creating any wealth? The wealth creation is happening for somebody else. So this thought had started to get bigger in my mind. And one fine day I get a call from Manish. Manish and I have always been in touch, and when we were in the same city, we meet a lot, and he'd stay home and I would stay at his place if I was in Mumbai. One fine day I get a call from him, and the call, which all of us have got at some point in our lives, right? And he talked to me about business, and I said, sure, why not? Let's go check it out. I obviously did not know what industry he was talking about. And I'm glad I didn't, because if he had told me what industry it is, I wouldn't have gone for the meeting. Because I was a person who was very anti-network marketing, right? Because of my personal experiences with the industry, of people around me that had tried the business and it hadn't worked. So I had a very, I didn't have a good perception at all about the industry. So I went for the meeting, and as luck would have it, the person who took my plan was none other than V partner Sharfan Sheikh in Delhi. So saw the plan, came out of the meeting. I asked my wife, Shweta, what do you want to do? She said, do what? Let's go have dinner. I said, no, not that. What do you want to do about this? She said, this, I'm not going to do it. You want to do it, you do it. So she was very neutral in the beginning towards the business, right? I said, it's making sense to me. I'm going to do it because there's there's nothing to lose over here, right? And it makes sense. The numbers look good. The opportunity looks fairly good. So what's the harm, right? I think it's time. And I always had that image of the life that I wanted. And I began to realize that maybe this is, God is giving me this for a reason. And got started in the business, attended the welcome and so on. And suddenly, people started talking about dreams. And I don't remember anybody ever talking to me about dreams, right? In the workplace, it was all about achieving the goals that you have for the organization. It was never about achieving your own goals. And, it somehow, I remember when I was doing my dream list activity. So the first time I did my dream list activity, it was very superficial. I did it because Bijoy told me that we're not going to do your plans if you don't complete your dream list. He wanted to reach that point. So when the first time I actually did a proper dream list, I actually went back to my childhood, and because all those thoughts, with what I was sharing with you in the beginning, had somewhere gotten buried. Because somewhere along the way, I had, I was thinking that maybe it'll happen in the next life. Is there a life? Right? And all those thoughts started to come out from my childhood. So started doing the business seriously, got signups, got many rejections as well. So it was a mixed bag. It wasn't like I was only getting signups or only getting rejections. So the business was growing. And I was very lucky, very, very fortunate that living in Delhi, coincidentally, that is the time, our uplines, VP Sharfun, Bijoy, Sachin, had started traveling to Delhi a lot. Manish started traveling to Delhi a little later, like he shared in the last system also that he took. Initially, it was our uplines who started travel. And by default, I used to be there on weekends because Manish would tell me, boss, they're coming, spend as much time as you can with them. Initially, I didn't understand what's the reason here. They're coming, I'll do my plan, I'll finish the plan, and I'll go home. Why do I need to be there the whole day? But because I was spending time with them, I started to enjoy their company as well. We were like-minded people. And it was nice to talk to them because they would also talk about dreams, right? They would also talk about a future, a certain life. And that used to excite me a lot. It was a very different conversation with them than I used to have with my colleagues from the workplace or my other friends. The conversations were very different. And these conversations were what used to excite me a lot. So business kept moving. It's not that I made a lot of money. I did make a lot of money. Yes, I made money. My first 2-3 months, I made good money. But after that, the lean period was there. And in fact, for the first 2 years, there were more weeks where I didn't make any money than weeks where I made money. Right? It was like that. The credit cash out would keep flipping. So one side would take off and then that would stop. Then the other side would take off. And now my credit would become cash out and cash out would become credit. All that was happening. And because I was obviously, very excited, talking to people, showing plans, what happens to everybody happened to me as well. The negativity starts hitting you. Your friends who see the plan and don't sign up start to make fun of you. Start talking behind your back. Start mocking the business. Start mocking the. So that time Biodisc was a big product, right? And a lot of my friends, once they would meet me, they say, "Arey, wo coaster wala aa gaya." The coaster. For those of you who don't know, this is a Biodisc, right? If you look at it, it looks like a coaster, correct? I put this protection around it, but actually it's just a piece of glass. And they would make fun of me and they say, oh, the coaster guy has come, right? So, kitna becha, kitne kanch beche. This is the language that I had to face. And at that moment, obviously, when you're early in the business, it affects you. These things affect you. And I remember so well, there was this moment where there was this party I walked into and I saw 5, 6 of my close friends. Everybody's standing. So I walked in a bit late and they're standing with, their glasses in their hands. And the moment they see me, they whisper something to each other. And you can see all of them are smiling. And I knew what they were talking about, right? They were basically ridiculing me, making fun of me, probably saying ki chalo ab aake kuch aur bechega or something like that. And it wasn't easy initially to go through that. My extended family, a lot of people in my extended family used to make fun of me. And after a point, they would ask me, Arey, you made your crores. How much have you made? Show us your bank balance, right? And that's the kind of stuff that I have begun to hear. And they would start telling other people also. Like, a couple of your friends from your school don't sign up. What do? They start recruiting other people and telling them, oh, what Shantanu is doing and so on. So, in our business, we are building a tree, right? A left and right. There are certain people outside who are also building a tree, right? That's the tree of people who are making fun of you and who are waiting for you to fall and crash land, fall on your face. And sadly, these are people that you may consider to be your friends and family. Sadly. Why? I'm not a psychologist. I don't even want to get into it. But that's the harsh reality. We all have faced it. If we haven't faced it, we will face it. So initially, it was not very easy. But obviously, because I was so connected with all my uplines, because I was so in communication with all of my uplines, that there was like a shield around me. They were the shield around me, right? They're the ones who protected me. And I stayed excited. They ensured that I stayed excited. And I used to make these big announcements, right? That I'm going to make this much, I will quit my job, I will do this, I will do that. Because I genuinely believed it. It's not like I was faking it. I genuinely believed. And people would still continue to make fun of me. And after a point, a year or so, they would say, Acha, why haven't you quit your job? You were talking so big things, etc., etc. But I kept going. I kept staying busy in the business. Till now, Shweta was still kind of neutral. But, one of the reasons I signed up in the business was to have some control of my life, which I felt I didn't have. Because my life was all about work. It was all about building that organization, which I used to enjoy also. I'm not complaining. I really enjoyed the work that I was doing in my job. It was very gratifying. It taught me a lot. And to a large extent, the person I am today was because of those few years that I spent in that organization. And I'm very grateful for whatever I experienced. I'm not bitter about it at all. And on the contrary, I'm very, very grateful. So that was one of the reasons. But when I came into the business, whatever little time that I had that I could give to my family, where I could be with my wife, my kid, of course, that time I had only one daughter when I started the business. Suddenly that time was taken away because that time is now going in the business, right? Saturday early morning, I would leave home because my uplines would come and wherever they were, I would go straight there. Whatever plans were there would happen and I would stay there till late night. Saturday, late night, because the maximum learning happens in informal time, right? So Saturday about 2-3 a.m. I would return home. Sunday early morning system again. So I would leave again. So I would leave home on a Saturday where pretty much my daughter was asleep. My wife also would be asleep. I would come back home. Both of them would be asleep. I would leave on Sunday morning. They would still be asleep. And I would return home on Sunday late night. They would still be asleep. Right? So from being in a situation where I at least had some weekends with the family, I was now in a situation where I was gone even on weekends. So my problem of not having any time for myself or my family actually became worse. And because there were periods I was not making money, it started a conflict at home. Obviously, right? Because your family is seeing that you're out all the time. Yaar, aap dikhte nahi ho. Where are you? It's been like we have to struggle. We have to fix a time to have a conversation. Right? These are the things that I used to up. Now, do we have to take an appointment with you if we have to have a conversation? Because the kind of money that I was making from the business was not enough to justify my absence. Right? So you start hearing that. Na? You are gone. Where is the money? You said you're going to do this, you're going to do that. Where is it? Yeah, every now and then you make some money, but is it really what you thought? But obviously, that belief was there. I kept going. Plans, association, events would happen. We used to have Mega QSP, we used to have BTC, we used to have VCon, of course, the mother of all events, which I was always very, very excited. I continued to do whatever I needed to do in the business, right? While fighting this off at home. Because I had realized that it's a problem, but I need to compartmentalize. I cannot bring any negativity into my workplace. It's there, I will deal with it at the right time. I can't let it overpower me to an extent where I'm not even doing the things that I need to do. And every event, every time I've been in association, it would teach me something. And that is one of the reasons that I was able to stick to the business and last in the business for so many years. I remember there was a big mega QSP that happened, and fairly early in my business, VP Dev Advani took this session, which today is called a switch on. At that time, we used to call it as zigzag. He took the session and he talked about, how, he blew my mind. The numbers he shared were staggering. And I came back home and I told Shweta that I think I'm going to scale up. Scale up means I think I'm going to buy another 10, 13 units because I just saw this thing. It's blown my mind and I'm going to, And we had such a massive fight that at that moment she was ready to leave me. Literally, that's how bad it had become. And I remember clearly that at that moment I realized that I had not communicated to my family the real reasons why I was doing this. It wasn't just about money. And I sat down, had a heart-to-heart conversation with her, explained to her, these are the reasons I'm doing the business. This is not for my selfish reasons, right? This is the life that I envision for all of us. I spoke to my parents because even they were like, boss, where are you? I haven't seen you. Where are you? And it was a heart-to-heart conversation. It was a very emotional conversation. Because sometimes, the people that we're doing the business for, even they're not aware why we're doing the business. And it was that conversation that kind of settled things at home. And from being a person who was neutral, who became negative, again became neutral, only because I had that conversation. And then things changed at work because, the workload was increasing. We were growing faster than we could handle. And I kind of got pulled into that a lot more. Because I'm also human, right? You get caught into this short-term, instant gratification. Because suddenly the effort you're putting in somewhere is giving you massive results. That kind of overshadows the effort that you're putting in somewhere else, which should give you a massive result later on in life. So it is very easy to be sucked into that. We are all human beings because we are all brought up with that value system. That is salary to mil rahi hai na. I am going to get paid, right, at the end of the month. So I kind of got a little pulled in because whatever extra work I was doing was directly increasing my income also in my job. It's not like it was fixed because a large part of my compensation was variable. Right? So if I'm putting in 5 more hours over there, I will get money worth those 5 hours. That result will be good. So I got pulled into that direction. And gradually the focus started to shift from the business. I remember, and it's visible every week, my system count started to drop a little. Some weeks it would stay constant, some weeks it would start to drop. And, obviously uplines were observing. And I remember Bijoy was in Delhi once and we were sitting in Greater Kailash Part 2 M Block Market in Anupam Suites. And he called me and said, I was leaving, I was in my car and I was saying bye to me. He said, listen, I need to talk to you guys. So Shweta was also with me. So I used to take Shweta whenever I could, I used to take her for association. And he sat us down and he spoke to us and he said, guys, this is a warning sign. Your system count is stagnant or it is dropping, right? I understand you're busy at work, etc. But we need to find a mechanism to pull this back because it will collapse. So he, the writing was on the wall. He could see it. I could not. But in my mind, I thought, yeah, we'll do. Again, same story repeated. Didn't do much about it. Eventually, it came to a point where my system count had reached about 50, collapsed. To 1. Who was that one person? Me. Everything went, it just collapsed. Back in those days, we used to have physical systems. So after physical system, what would happen? We would all gather outside the venue And team-wise, everybody would form these small circles and do their sharing, right? And everybody, nobody would admit it, but everybody wanted to see how many circles they have, right? Because that is a sign of growth. So I started with half a circle, which would plug in with another team. Then it became my own circle, then another circle, then another circle. So it came to a point where there was no circle, right? So I would leave, come out of the system, and I'd be walking to my car, and this would happen in the parking lot. And I'd be walking to the car, and I would see all these teams, that people who started with me, their circles are getting bigger, they're increasing, number of circles are increasing. And I was all alone. It was very embarrassing. You know, I would hide my face and somehow sneak into my car. And if there was a team that I knew, right, my cross lines who were blocking the path, I would not even honk, because I would not want them to see me leave like that. So I would hide in some corner, wait for them to leave, and then I would get out of there. You know, there was this one occasion where, so our association in Delhi that time used to happen in this place called SDA, which is opposite IIT Delhi. And SDA also, you know, a sign of growth was how many tables is your team occupying. So there were 5-6 coffee shops and buzzing with activity. Like 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon after the system, it was buzzing with activity. There was no place to get even a chair, let alone a table. And there was this one day where, you know, I obviously was always in association. I never skipped that, even though there was no team left. I would go to association, and there's this one day, I don't know, maybe it was a combination of many things, the thoughts that I was having, the system that had happened, the topic. And I came to association and I looked around, and I didn't see a single person from my team there. And I actually broke down and cried that day. And I called my upline VP Sharfun, she was not VP that time, and we talked about it. You know, about how you got to rebuild, and she told me what I need to do. And I said, chalo, theek hai, you know, came out of that fairly quickly, continued to be in association, even though the business was not moving much, right? But all uplines were there to spend time with. Manish was always there. The Joy was always there. Sharfun was always there. VP Sachin was always there. VP Dev also, right? Everybody was always there. So what I started to do then was I started to, you know, I always understood that my future lies in the business. No matter how much money I make in the short term in a job, eventually my future lies in the business. So I started to change how I was going about doing my job, right? And I started to, you know, combine my business and work travel together. So if I had a meeting in a different city, let's say on a Tuesday, I would try and move it to Monday. Let's say if I have a meeting in Mumbai on Monday or Bangalore, wherever, on Tuesday, I would move it to Monday. I would fly in on a Friday night. Company money, obviously, because they would have to pay for the flight anyway, right? So I would fly in on a Friday night. I would spend 2 days, do plans, etc. Monday morning, do my meeting and fly back. So I started doing that. You know, Mumbai, if it was midweek, I would ensure it is Wednesday. Why? Because Wednesday, South Mumbai, there used to be a VSET. That used to happen. That VSET was as big as the system is. But, you know, and sometimes VP Dev would land up, VP Sachin would be there. And I would get to spend time with them, because I had understood that if you're not spending time with your uplines, if you're not in association all the time, you cannot survive the business. I had understood that. And that is even more important when the chips are down. When the business is not going the way you think it should, it is even more important to do that. Right? So in good times, yes. But in bad times, because, you know, there is a lot of negativity out there. There are people waiting for you to tell them, I quit the business. Believe me, there are people waiting, right? Because they have to validate their decision of not signing up in your business. So they're waiting for that. So it's very easy to get pulled and sucked into all of that. And as luck would have it, you know, one thing that I had always tried to do, it was both by default and design, is that Shweta, my wife, was always connected with my uplines. Even though she was not active in the business, Manish would come, he would stay at home. Anand would come, he would stay at home. So she would get to spend a lot of time. And she connected really well with, she knew Manish before, obviously, because Manish and I go back before the business. But even after signing up in the business, she knew every single upline of mine, because I used to deliberately ensure that, there is some conversation, some connection happening over there. Because if I'm going to get the mindset from these people, so is she, right? The more time that we can spend together, the better it is, right? Back in the day, we used to get the 8 basic building blocks on CD. I used to play it when I knew that she's going to be in the room. And Chief would talk about all of these things, and she may not be sitting and watching it on TV like that, but you're listening, right, if you're in the same room. So I used to do these things. I used to sometimes do emotional blackmail, try and get her to system. And obviously her biggest click happened when she went to VCon, when Manish actually tricked her into coming to VCon. That's a separate story I will tell you on another time. But over a period of time, somewhere that mindset was getting built. I mean, today also, when Chief's Wednesday video comes, I don't sit in a corner of my house and listen to it. I ensure that I play it when we're on the dining table, when my kids are there, and I'll put it on speaker, loudspeaker, and I play it. And I tell them, listen, guys, just be quiet. I need to listen to this. But why am I doing it there? Because I want them to listen to it also. Because that mindset needs to be built, right? The sooner I expose my next generation to it, the better it is. And whatever Chief is talking in most videos, it's not just unit centric. You can apply those things in life. Correct. So I have always tried to ensure that those messages, that mindset can be passed on to the people around me as well. So Shweta got active. Business again took off, went to the next level. And incidentally, she became my biggest support. She became my biggest strength in the business. And today I can tell you very confidently that none of whatever happened after that would have happened without her. I can tell you that. Sometimes we're looking to sign up a rock star outside without realizing that the biggest one could be sitting at home right next to you. We don't realize these things, right? So, I have noticed a lot of people will keep their spouses, their family, etc., away from the business. Not a very good thing to do, right? Because you don't know, right? Sometimes what happens and who clicks and who becomes that person. So she got active and started building the business very aggressively, because I was still, trying to find that balance between my work and my business, my job and my business, right? Mentally, I was a full-timer from a very early point in my life. But obviously, there were pressures and so on, but I was doing whatever I could. So I would return, when I would leave office, I wouldn't come home. I would go straight to the association, which was in Delhi. So from Gurgaon to Delhi, at that time, it was a good 40 odd minutes drive. Sometimes I would reach there at 9 o'clock and be there and leave by 10:30 and come back home 11:15, have dinner, and whatever phone call, etc., was always happening, and then go to sleep. So I had, because in my mind, I was clear that if I don't do this, it's very easy to make an excuse and say, okay, I'm getting pulled into work. Of course you are, right? But if you don't do what you need to do here, how will you ever be able to come out of that? If you look at, a lot of people say, I want to sign up because I don't want to work anymore. And then that same reason is given for not being able to do the business. That's a contradiction, right? Because I had understood that, that it's killing me. But if I don't kill myself a little more now, I will never be able to come out of this. It was very, very clear. And those couple of years, you have to sacrifice. Because how else will it happen? How else will it happen? That, whatever you want to call it, sacrifice, paying the price, whatever, right? It has to be done. Otherwise, one can never come out of it. And, continue to show plans, whatever team was there. Then one fine day, Kritika and Adi sign up, right? And they were obviously the beneficiary of all the mistakes that we had made. And no later than that, Viral and Frank signed up. And again, the business just took off, right? Now, credit was growing, but again, the same problem, right? Not making enough money. Checks were not being made. In the business, they always say, and I understood that later, that credit teaches you the business, right? What you do on your credit is going to teach you the business. And that is what you will implement in your cash out to make your business grow and to make the money that you're looking. So plans continued, growth was happening, showed the plan to my boss. In my workplace, I had always projected that this is my wife's business, not my business, right? Because as a CEO, I can't be doing another business, right? What message does that send to everybody in the organization? So it was always projected as that. And showed the plan to my boss. And being a businessman, he understood in 30 seconds, signed up, did whatever, 15, 16 hot zones, just like that. And suddenly I saw an opening and I signed up everybody in the organization. I signed up the CFO, the CIO, all the 4 regional sales heads, the delivery head. I mean, it was like carte blanche, right? Signed up everybody. And that is where the next, burst of business happened, activity happened. Got extremely busy, no time at all. Now it was complete madness. Like there was no balance at all, right? There was no balance at all. It was job, business, everything 24/7. It was only about that. And again, you have to be smart, right? Again, ensuring that my job activities and business activities can be planned and timed together. So I would step out during lunch, just go out, make calls, right? If I'm going for a meeting, I would try and be alone and not go with somebody else so that I could be on the phone. So one needs to be able to steal time. You will never have time. You're never going to have time. In fact, in the corporate world, the higher you go, the lesser time you have. You realize that we start working harder as each year goes by and spending less and less time with our families. That's the harsh reality. And that doesn't get better, it only gets worse. So one needs to steal time from wherever one can. There is no other way of doing this. Because in your mind, the day the business becomes the center of your life, everything else will start to revolve around it. And until the time we make that mental switch, I had realized, I shouldn't say we, I'm talking about myself here. I'm not preaching to anybody. This is me, right? Until I realize that until I do that, I will continue to struggle with this balance. It's never going to happen. So your job, the rest of your life, family time, personal time, hobbies, etc., has to revolve around the business. Correct? If I have a plan at this time, I'm not going to do anything else. Right? If I have a system at this time, I'm not going to do anything else. If I have a resell at this time, I'm not going to do anything else. If I have to be in association at this time, I'm not going to do anything else. Everything else can take a back seat because this is temporary. This is not permanent. And business also started to grow again. Now both sides moving, right? Moving pretty fast. And as one day I decided, it's going well. My uplines were also talking to me about it. Manish was also talking to me about it. Said, why not buy that dream car? And decided to got myself a BMW 5 Series. A lot of the doubters put it up on Facebook. A lot of the people who had laughed at me suddenly went quiet. And they were, sadma lag gaya, no? Shock lag gaya. Few of them came back asking, what was that business here? Can we sit again? And signed up. But some doubters were still making fun, saying, "Arey, this is not business and all. He makes good money in his job. He must have bought it from salary." So people, who have to talk will find some reason or the other to pull you down. Because now it became, why hasn't he quit his job? Itna baate karta hai. Why is he still in a job? He's been saying it for so long. Right? And these were the people who had passed judgment on me earlier in life, right? So they couldn't digest that I was doing well in life. Gale se nahi utar raha tha. Because they had passed, they were all judges, right? So they had passed that this guy will never amount to anything in life. And suddenly they start to see that, yeah, this guy is racing ahead of us. They can't digest it. So they have to come up with all kind of theories, right? To make it look that, this is not the reality, this is all fake. Because, we need to understand, people will always talk and pull us down. That other tree is going to continue to be built. People are always in recruitment mode. 20 years and 100 days, I think some of them, if they applied that same thought and logic over here, they'll do far better. Because the pace at which they're recruiting those people to build that tree is huge. And, kept going. It came to a point where I realized that I'm not able to do the two things anymore. Like I have stretched myself to breaking point. I cannot go beyond this in terms of job and business together. And my job had now seriously become a very big roadblock in the business. Very, very big roadblock in the business. Because the team was growing, they needed my time, and I wasn't there enough. I was there, but I needed to be there a lot more. And in the course of a conversation with my upline, she said, I think it's time for you to quit your job. I said, okay, fine, let's do it. It took me about half a second to agree, right? Quit my job. I had a 3-month notice, ended up serving almost twice of that because I didn't want to leave on a bad note. I was very, very attached to, like what Viral was saying, baby, etc. Literally, it was like that. I was very attached to the people, to the company. In fact, on my last day, they bought me a cake, etc. I choked, I broke down because it was a very emotional moment for me. Because, like I said, I didn't hate my job. I loved the people that I was working with. I will forever be grateful to my boss who taught me so much. Who actually, looking back today, I think that he believed in me a lot more than I believed in myself. And I wouldn't have been able to achieve whatever I did without him. No chance. But I knew that my future lies somewhere. So it's a step that had to be taken. And when I quit my job 10 years ago, I was making more money than what a Sapphire Star does. Viral said 8-figure. Actually, it wasn't 8-figure. It was close to that. Combined income was 8-figure. My wife and mine, right? And I quit my job at that time. People thought I was crazy. A lot of my friends who were in jobs could not understand that decision. They just could not believe it. They're like, how are you mad? Why are you doing that? You're doing well. You're handling a company that's growing and, you guys are getting recognition. You travel the world, etc. So in other people's eyes, I was doing really well. But was I really doing well? That was a big question. Because I didn't think I was doing well. Because, the corporate world can be very farcical. Sometimes, we get sucked into this designation, money, recognition, etc. so much that it takes our focus away from reality. That's not reality. No matter how fancy the designation is, it is temporary. If we're in a job, that designation is temporarily given to us. It's not permanent. And it is temporarily given to us because we are doing well, because we are running so fast. Slow down for a month, then let's see. Slow down for a quarter, then let's see. Right? Quarter se quarter tak. QSQT, I mean, the corporate people would know what I'm talking about, right? That's life, QSQT, quarter se quarter tak. So it's temporarily given. Because after a point, if you're not running as fast, questions will be asked. Some serious questions will be asked and then some decisions can be taken. But we tend to overlook that. Like if we're handling a very big portfolio, we take pride in the fact that we're handling such a big portfolio. But is that portfolio ours? Like I meet people and say, I'm having a 50 million, I had a $50 million business in my organization. Very good. What about your portfolio, boss? How many zeros does that have? We don't look at it like that. It's something that we talk about with great pride. These things, in my humble opinion, are given to feed the ego. It's nothing but a handcuff, right? It could be a golden handcuff, it could be diamond-studded handcuff, but at the end of the day, it is a handcuff. So it's very easy to be sucked into that. Like people say, you travel so much, you're seeing the what world? My travel was wake up at 5 a.m. for a person who's not I'm not a morning person, right? Wake up at 5 a.m., rush to the airport, right? Half asleep, full suit boot, correct? Get into a flight, go straight, meet, have the food on the flight, breakfast, go straight to your meeting, get stuck in traffic, right? Finish your meeting, have a working lunch, go to the airport, fly to another city, right? Stay in some hotel, eat hotel food, very unhealthy lifestyle. What travel is this? I once flew to the US for 2 days. I reached on a Sunday morning because Monday afternoon we had a meeting. Finished the meeting, Monday night I got a flight back home. What travel are we talking about? People think that if you're traveling, you must be doing really well. It's a measure of your success, surprisingly. That's how the outside world perceives it. But is that the definition of doing well? Is that what it's supposed to mean? Right? So in the world's eyes, I was doing well. In my eyes, I was not doing well. This had become a burden. Right? It had actually become a burden. Because I had understood that I was so busy killing myself to build somebody else's dream, I had forgotten my own dreams. And the true wealth creation was happening for somebody else. That company, I was talking to somebody the other day. Most of the clients that I had brought in are still there. And they're billing them worth several crores a year. What am I making out of that? Do they give me money? I don't get anything, right? So whatever effort I put in is still, it's a pipeline built for the owner of the company. That pipeline is still giving water to the owner of the company, not to me. But took that step, again, some doubters shut up, right? The people who were, pointing fingers and saying this, that, etc. Some people came back and signed up again. There are moments in your life in the business where you see a spurt of signups. The first is when you actually sign up because there is tremendous excitement. Second is when you buy a German car. Third is when you quit your job. These three, milestones, I shouldn't say milestones, these three moments in your life in the business will see the maximum number of signups. What did I do? I remember it was a Thursday because finally I told my boss, I said, I need to exit now. I can't stretch this anymore. I had reached that point. So got out. It was a Thursday evening. Friday morning, what did I do? I got a flight to Bangalore, 3 days back-to-back plans, having sandwiches for lunch. Because there was so much work in the business. There was just so much work. We were constantly busy. And now for the first time in my life, I was happy taking an early morning flight. For the first time, what they call the red-eye flights. I was happy because I had to be in association in Indiranagar by 9 a.m. to take my first plan. So I took the flight was at an unearthly hour by my standards. But I was happy, I was not complaining because this was my baby, right? This was my business. Now every single thing that I'm doing is for me, is for my next generation, is for the business that I'm building. And the work was huge. There was massive growth happening. 1 week later, 2013, challenge happened. We had some issues in India, right? And not a very good time, correct? People started asking questions and so on. And that is where Mr. Manish Kumar, my brother, my upline, my friend, I don't have words, to describe him. That is when he played this role of a guardian angel who stepped in. And a lot of you were there, Adi, Viral, Prag, Kritika, a lot of you, Nileen, Sam, a lot of you know exactly what I'm talking about in that period, right? And he's the one who practically, who was there with us all the time, kept the flock together, protected us from everything that was happening outside. There were questions being raised. And there were moments I felt that he's not being completely transparent with me, right? But later on, I realized that he was just trying to protect the team. He was just trying to protect me. And, we spent a lot of time together. He ensured that the team was always together, always talking about focusing on the dream, and ensured that we didn't drop the pace in our business. On the contrary, he ensured that our activities went up because there were some other teams that were questioning that, maybe we need to stop, maybe we need to slow down. Today, those teams don't exist. They don't exist, right? But it was because of the guidance that we continued and the support and the love that we got from Manish that we were able to take the business to the next level. And 1 year after the challenge happened, I maxed out. Okay. And now 4 years had passed in the business. In my 5th year of the business, I made more money than I did in my entire corporate career, cumulatively, in 1 year in the business. So you understand this concept of delayed gratification? That's what it means. I actually saw it at play. In 1 year, I made more than I had in my entire corporate life combined. And I ticked one of the dreams that I had. One of the dreams I had was that I wanted to pay more. My income tax that I pay should be more than my last drawn salary. And I ticked one of those dreams. And how did that happen? Many, many things. Obviously, we continued to do business at the pace that we were supposed to. But the role that the uplines played over there was invaluable. And you begin to realize, what everybody says, talk to your upline, be in communication, do this, spend time in association. A lot of us question it like, what will happen if I do? Why do I need to talk to 3 uplines? Why can't I just talk to 1 upline? What will that do? And it's in moments like that, you realize how invaluable those lessons are. Because in my journey in the business, there are so many uplines that have played such a big role, collectively and individually. Be it Manish, be it Bijoy, be it Sharfun, be it VP Sachin, be it VP Dev. There is a relationship with every single one of them. And that relationship got built only and only by spending time with them. There was no other way it could have happened. Today, I can pick up the phone and call any of them. Not today, obviously I can't do that today, but several years ago also. The relationship had got built because we had spent so much time together. And had that not happened, would any of whatever happened later in the business have happened? No, it wouldn't have. No chance. Because they're the ones who have been there, done that, right? They're the ones that kept guiding, kept telling us what needs to be done, what does not need to be done, and how fast you have to go, when you have to slow down, when you turn left, when you turn right. All of us keep hearing, right? Come for association, come for association. Some of us can't understand why. They say in our business, suspend the judgment for at least 2 years. Which means that whatever is being said, you may not understand it today, but there is a strong reason why it's being told. And you will understand the reason at a later time. So, business continued, life had changed dramatically. There was never any need to keep a morning alarm anymore. I would wake up when I wanted to wake up. Right? Obviously, we would sleep very late because, our informals would go on forever. But for the first time in my life, I actually tasted true freedom. From being an absent father, absent son, absent husband, as I keep talking about, suddenly I was a person who was always there. 4 o'clock, 4 p.m. on a weekday at my kids' school bus stop outside our home, there would be a lot of people, right, waiting to receive the kids. I was the only man who would be standing there. Everybody else was a domestic help or a mother who had to quit her job because of, spending time, being able to spend time with the kid. I was the only man over there. I remember one time my daughter, elder one, Amira, came down. She was really upset. I was like, what happened? She said, my friend said very bad things about you. I said, what did she say? She said, your father doesn't have a job. He's there every time. He just sits at home. And so that really upset her. I'm like, it's okay. Let them say it. What will a child understand, right? But that's how life had become, So that entire problem of, not being there vanished. Why did it vanish? Because I decided to not be there for a little longer period of time. And what I was doing in that time was very, very important. Shifted to Dubai after a few years. Again, those people, I heard this crazy rumor, I didn't know whether I should laugh or to cry, right? Or cry. One of this friends of mine told me, like, acha wo hai na, wo bol raha tha ki tera business, sorry, in English. So he was talking about this common friend of ours. This is my school group, okay? He's talking about this common friend of ours who apparently was saying that Shantanu's business has completely collapsed. He has, come on the street. He had to sell his house. The house that I'm living in right now, where I'm talking to you, this house, I had to sell that house and I got 100 crores for it and I moved to Dubai. I'm like, 100 crores? The house is not even worth 100 crores. Where do people come up with this stuff from? It is unbelievable. I mean, you can make a movie about these things. How and where people come up with these numbers and these theories is crazy. But they're busy building that other tree, right? So they have to do what they have to do. They have to talk what they have to talk. And, honestly speaking, saw fair amount of success, very good amount of money. And I actually came to a point where, I got complacent. The next dip in my business started to happen because of that. Got complacent, started to take things for granted, started to think that, everything is set, whereas it wasn't set, right? Lost the grip at the lowest level. And that is where we realized that the culture of the organization started to get spoiled. Deviations began to happen, and gradually started to see a dip in the business. One thing that I realized much later is that the culture of the business is sacrosanct. The systems, the processes are there for a reason. Again, it's one of those things that a lot of times we may not understand, right? But believe me, if it's there, it is for a solid reason. And that is where we kind of started to lose the plot. And as luck would have it, master plan, I keep talking about it. COVID happened. We partner Sachin Gupta decided to get involved in our team personally. And that is when the next turnaround happened. We got so busy, during COVID, people were free, vela, they had nothing to do. We did not have time to breathe. All, all the people here, who were there during COVID will know what I'm talking about, right? Starting with KPL and all, we had no time to breathe. And that's when the business turned around completely all over again. And today we're at a point where the culture is set, there are no issues as such. And we have kind of, we had to do a lot of unlearning and relearning in that period post-COVID, which he did. And again, business started to pick up again and, things started to get better. Couple of months back, unfortunately, I had a medical emergency in my family. It was the night after Diwali, 25th of October, right? Where my life changed 180 degrees. Something happened at home with my father. And he had a medical condition which required him to be in hospital for almost 50 days. And I remember it was a Wednesday night and I was supposed to take IIP on Thursday, the batch. And I called Manish and I said, listen, this has happened. And he heard me, he heard my voice, and he understood that this is very serious. I had to get, obviously got pulled into that direction. But my uplines told me, okay, we will handle everything. You focus over there, right? Don't bother with anything. Put all your energy, focus over there, because that is obviously the most important thing in my life at that moment. So I used to go to hospital at 9 a.m. I used to return at 9:30 p.m. That is what my life was for a good 50 odd days. Completely disconnected from the business. Like I would not even, and I wanted to stay away from the phone because, constantly talking about it would just create a lot of negativity in my mind. And there was negative energy because I didn't have answers for people. I didn't have any answers to give to anyone because doctors didn't have answers. So it was complete madness. It was a very, very bad period in my life. But uplines took over, downlines, everything. It was a seamless transition. It's not like I had to do in a job when you get out, you have to do knowledge transfer. There's a transition that has to happen because this is the project. These are the deliverables. This is what has happened. You take over. These are the mails. Let me start copying you. It's a crazy process. This was seamless. There was no knowledge transfer required. Nothing. And for a good 50 odd days, when we were in the hospital, I did not even know what was happening with us. But I used to sleep at night knowing that everything is taken care of. Because all my uplines, these amazing, amazing human beings, amazing people are there. And I know that there are my downlines who are taking ownership. So the newest person in the business will be taken care of. I used to go to bed with the comfort of that knowledge. Because that is just how the business is built. That is the nature of the business. Right? I was completely disconnected. I had no clue how much, what is happening in the team, what is going on, nothing. But every week, the counter was running. Every Tuesday, money was coming into my CPA. In fact, on some weeks, there was more money coming in than before. Right? Because some people have a very good week, so boom, it goes up. One day I was driving to the hospital and talking to my wife. I'm like, can you imagine what would have happened if we were still in jobs? Can you imagine? It's a scary thought. What would have happened? Could I have disconnected from office for 50 days like that in a second's notice? Could I have done that? No chance. I would probably have been asked to put in my papers saying that, listen, or maybe go on a sabbatical, right? But would I have earned money? No. And then while I'm handling this serious condition, I would have one more thing to worry about, money, which is not a small thing to worry about. It's a very big thing, right? There was no worry at all. And this would not have been possible if I had been doing something else. No matter how high, in fact, the higher I would have been, the worse it would have been. Right? And then people around me started talking. They're like, my God, you're doing so much. Have you started your work again? I'm like, no, I haven't. I need to resolve this first. I can't do anything else right now. because my focus 100% was there. Doctors were surprised, right? How is this guy always here, right? Many relatives are applauding that, you're doing so much. I'm like, what do you mean doing so much? Is there any other option? Like, I mean, isn't this the most obvious thing to do? Why would you not do this? Right? But the fact that I was able to do it, right? That is what a lot of people did not understand. That how is he able? Fine, it's good that you have the intent to do it. Everybody will have the intent to do it. But will we all be able to do it or not is the big question. In my mind, I was looking at it as God has given me an opportunity to serve my parents. Would it have been possible if I was doing anything other than this business? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Being there from morning till night, 7 days a week, would not be possible if I was doing anything else. See, the levers were there, right? They were already there in the business, but the true power of leverage was felt in those few months. That's where I actually felt for the first time in so many years. Yeah, I mean, I have gone on the odd holiday here and there and so on and so forth and seen business running in the back, but never like this. I had never felt it like this because I was completely cut off. And that's when, I would look back and I thought about all the negativity I faced in the business, all the so-called friends that made fun of me, ridiculed me, tried to embarrass me in public, all the difficulties that I had, all the moments of despair, of anguish, where, you know that it's going to work, but it's getting very difficult. All those moments, the lowest of lows and the highest of highs. And at that moment, I realized that, my God, this was so worth it. Every single thing that I went through was completely worth it. Because this would not have happened if I had given in to that embarrassment. It would not have happened if I had given in to that negativity. It would not have happened if I had given in to that, those moments where, the job was so important that I had no time. I used to feel bad as well when I would not be able to see my family for days. It's not a nice feeling, right? But I continued to do what I did, and I realized that what I experienced in the last few months was a result of all of that. It would not have happened. Money, etc., is fine. It's okay. You will make money eventually. If not now, it will come, right? The big thing in this business is not the money, it's the person that you will become. And that person is the one who can face up to any challenge, who can handle anything. When COVID happened, my wife set up a business for her mother during COVID, around the month of August, September. Her mother at that time was 63 years old. Now, she'd been a housewife all her life. Shweta's father was a government servant and retired, getting a certain pension and whatever. And she'd been a housewife all her life. So her entire life, she was dependent on somebody else for money. As a kid, she was dependent on her parents. As a wife, she was dependent on her husband. It was always that, right? Of course, your kids do, Shweta would do whatever she could, but she never had any money of her own. So my wife set up a business for her at the age of 63. And obviously, whatever she had learned in QNet and et cetera, she implemented everything. It's not like she's like, chalo, main implement karte. She had become that person, right? She had become that person. So she did what was coming to her naturally. But today, when we look back and talk about it, obviously it was all because of QNet. And she set up a business for her and started to make money, became profitable. Today, it's self-sustaining in a matter of 2 years. Today, that same woman, my mother-in-law, does not depend on anybody financially. She makes her own money. In fact, whatever pension my father-in-law is getting is now going towards their investments. She is comfortably running the house, comfortably paying salary, comfortably living the life that she wants to live at this age. Last week, she had to fly to Jammu. So earlier, when she would want to take a flight, before her business started, she would tell Shweta or me that, can you book my ticket? I'd be like, okay. And she would tell us to book the cheapest ticket. We'll be like, listen, it's chill, it's okay. You don't necessarily need to go for the cheapest one. It's fine. Let's look at the time. She would insist, no, if you don't book me the cheapest ticket, I will not fly. You know how parents are, right? They think that they're burdening you and all of that. Last week she called me. She said that, can you book my ticket? I said, yeah, sure. She said, what are the fares? I told her, by habit, I said, this is the cheapest. She said, what time is it? I said, it's at 7 a.m. So I'll have to be at the airport at 5. I said, yeah. She said, no, get me a flight for this time, which was like, somewhere between 12 p.m. and all, because she wanted to fly comfortably. She said, what's the fare? I told her it was about almost 30% more than the cheapest. She said, book it. It's a very small thing, but it talks about a change in mindset. It talks about a change in thought process. Today, she is able to do that. Today, she is able to live the life that she is comfortable with. Would any of this have happened had it not been for the business? No. Absolutely not. Because the money may have been there, but the mindset would not have been there. That's a bit about my journey, right? Of course, there's so much more I can talk about, but one has to keep an eye on the clock as well. But net, guys, see, I'm nobody to tell you what you should do or not do. I will leave that to our upline VP Sachin. He's our mentor, he's the guide, he knows what's best. I was here to only share with you what I have done. Right? Couple of things that I always, focused on that have been things that I feel today, looking back in hindsight, ensured that I reached where I wanted to reach. The first thing, I always dreamt big. Right? Now, when I say dream big, I don't mean BMW, Mercedes, etc., etc. Of course, those things are important as well because they help you go the distance. These are nothing but milestones. BMW or a Mercedes is not a prize. It is just a stepping stone. But there was always, you can call it a dream or you can call it a goal, whatever you're comfortable with, right? But in my mind, those were dreams. Okay? So always, and about what all, like I said, not just about system count. What should my system count be next week, right? What will my system count be 2 months from now? Very clear, right? Camps. Now camps, not because it's an edification, not because of that, because I had understood, thanks to all my appliances, that camps are crucial for your own personal growth. It's not an edification point. It's crucial for your own growth because you need to keep evolving as a human being, as an individual. And after a point, it was not just about me qualifying. It was like, okay, next LS, next LDC, I'm going to have so many people going. That was a dream. It was written in the dream book. Events, next week on, I'm going to have a team of this size. It was written in the dream book. Right? So you got to have small dreams. I'm going to take my first resell. I would think about it. One day I will take my first resell. One day I will take my first system. This is the song that's going to play when I'm walking to stage. One has to keep thinking and dreaming about these things. Right? Always stayed in association. Always. Right? By default. Right? That is something that can never change. Correct? Ups, downs, highs, lows. One has to constantly be there because that's what I understood that thankfully very, very long ago. Whether your business is rocking, whether your business is on the rocks, it doesn't matter. Right? I realized that it was always very, very important to be in association. And when I say association, I don't mean sitting in a plan. I mean the time after that, because the maximum learning that we will have is going to be in that setting. What we have today, late night association and all of that, maximum learning happens over there. I had understood the importance of being constantly in communication with multiple appliances. Very important to build relationship with multiple appliances. Right? If I had not had that, there is so much that would not have happened. And I'm talking in hindsight, okay? And I don't claim to have understood the secret sauce early in my business. I don't claim to have found that. But what I did understand is that if appliances are saying something, there must be a reason behind it. Whether I understand it now or not is immaterial, but there must be some reason. कुछ तो होगा ना, पागल थोड़ी ना सब लोग, कुछ तो होगा, right? Continue to show plans. there is always, there was never a period when plans were not happening. Right? Initially, even more than later, because later, the team, etc. is there, but the focus one can never take focus away from that. It's an activity that one can never stop. Continue to stay focused on the goal, because a lot of my dreams did not happen in the timeline that I had defined for myself. But should I have given up on those dreams? Oh, I said 6 months, it's 9 months, didn't happen. So what do? Give up? No. Rework the timeline, right? Rework the timeline. Try and fix whatever was the reason that we did not achieve the goal in the time we had defined for ourselves. Right? Continue to work hard. Like I said, event was one of the biggest things. Event was one of the biggest things where I could actually visibly see the growth in my business. Because you go to an event and like, okay, this section in the next event is going to be all mine. You see those 10 rows, that's going to be my team. One had to continue to think like that. And it's something Manish always used to talk about. How many people are you taking to the next event? Oh, just that many? No, we got to double it, because our logical mind, rational mind keeps breaking in, right? It continues to break in. And that is it's small things like that that help you shift that thought process. Believe me, in this business, it's a marker of your, or a measure of your success in the business, or your growth, not success, but growth in the business. Like our next event is going to happen in a few months from now. We're talking just about 8 to 9 months from now. Number one, are we committed to going there? Number two, if we are, have we done our own registration? Because till the time we do that, and we are not going to get a buy-in over here in the mind. Because what you take to the next event will pretty much decide the next year of your business. It's as simple as that. I'm talking something very logical. Our business is built on the concept of exponential growth. You take one person to the next event, you will have maybe 10 the following event, or 5. You take 50 people to the next event, you may have 500 in the following event. What do you want? How fast do you want to achieve your goals? How fast do you want to fulfill your dreams? Is also linked to how many people you're going to bring to the next event. A lot of people come to events and are blown away, right? Because, oh my God, this is unbelievable, etc. Would you not want 50 of your downlines to have that same feeling? Do we want to keep that just for us? Do we not want to share that feeling? Because imagine you being alone, completely switched on, raring to go and wanting to take the business to the next level, as opposed to you having 50 people with you who are in that same zone, working and building the business with you. What is better? It's simple logic. So that is my next big goal in the business, right? That's the next big goal. And that goal is broken up. There are milestones. There is tracking that's happening every single month. We are constantly monitoring where we are versus where we wanted to be. If we are falling behind, we are picking up the pace. If we are ahead, then that means that our target was low. Because the target has to be a stretch. If we are comfortably meeting the target, that means it's our corporate mind that fixed that target for us. We need to kick that mind out, and we need to bring the business exponential growth mindset. So guys, that's the next big one that we have. What we do, what we take over there in terms of numbers of people will decide where our business is in the next 3 months, in March, next year, 2024. So let's relook at that again, guys, because that is what is going to be the game changer. See, at the end of it, one has to understand that, challenges will be there. They will always be there. If you heard my challenges, they pale in comparison to the challenges my uplines have had. Literally, they're nothing. Some of you might be thinking, my God, itna kuch ho gaya iski life mein. You have no clue what my uplines would have gone through. They may not talk about it because it's not like something that you show off, right? Most people here did not know at least half the things that I talked about it, because there's no need to keep talking about it. Right? So problems will be there, challenges will be there. Those other people are still going to be building that tree. The question is, right, can you build your tree faster than theirs? Because that's the difference between success and not being successful. I won't call it failure, but not being as successful as you. So think about it, guys. Like I said, BI is what we're talking about, beyond infinity. All roads lead to that. Let's ensure that we are able to take maximum numbers over there. Sit with your uplines, rework your numbers, and let's go all out for that. All right. So thank you so much, everybody. Wonderful talking to you all. And look forward to talk to you all separately, individually. And wish you all the best. Love you guys. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Shantanu, for a wonderful system, guys. Fantastic. Round of applause, please. This is how you applause while being on mute. Thank you. Now, please, guys, have a wonderful Sunday. Please do your sharings with your upline and have a wonderful Sunday and entire week. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you so much. You can leave the meeting.